Scott Walker is running for governor again for the third time in 4 years.
I'm running for you.
First elected in 2010, Walker survived a recall effort in 2012 and is now asking Wisconsin for another term.
I'm their #1 target.
One poll says Scott Walker has a 5-point lead over his opponent heading into the Tuesday midterm election in Wisconsin. The numerical wags have it tight, with perhaps even Walker taking a loss when the votes are counted. Either way, the man some think of as a hard shot for the presidency in 2016 doesn't seem to be burning up the early ballots on the way to victory. So let's dive into a critical state and vote for the man and his party. Let's first vote for this interview. Welcome to MidPoint. He covers the state capitol in Wisconsin for the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, also co-author of More Than They Bargained For, Scott Walker, Unions, and the Fight for Wisconsin, Jason Stein. Jason, thanks so much for being here today.
Happy to do it.
Jason, what catches me most recently with Scott Walker is he is complaining that the GOP is not backing him up. He, of course, took a veiled shot at Chris Christie the other day, saying that they're not giving him enough money. But we looked into this, and the RGA has spent a lot of money on Scott Walker's behalf because, let's see, $5.2 million during 2010, almost $9 million during 2012, $8 million so far this year. Is he setting himself up for an excuse should he lose?
You know, I mean, look, in politics, we're getting close to an election here. You know, he's made some comments. You know, in the last few weeks, he's made some comments talking about the amount of money that's getting spent on the other side. It's certainly more competitive this time than it was during the recall race for governor when he had a large financial advantage. But I think some may make a little much of his criticism of Chris Christie. I mean, certainly the comments that I have heard him say were at best a veiled criticism, and you know, in general, he's for years said good things about Governor Christie and the RGA. So I personally would not make too much of one or two comments in which he mentioned that, you know, financial support is important and that the RGA is a major source of it.
Now, we're looking at a poll right now from Marquette Law School, and this has the race poll, has the governor with a 50% number, Mary Burke with a 43% number. So with these kind of numbers, with a 7-point lead going into Tuesday, it would seem at this point Scott Walker's best thing to do would be to shut up, stifle it, keep quiet, and just ride the rails until he gets to Tuesday. That's a pretty big lead.
It was outside the margin of error of the poll, and the Marquette poll is a respected poll. Now, it's worth saying that 2 weeks before that poll came out, that same poll had the race at 47-47 among likely voters. That 50-43 is also a likely voter number. The registered voter number is much closer. So, it is a race where turnout is very important. Typically in a midterm election, that benefits Republicans in Wisconsin, whereas presidential races, we have a bigger turnout among Democrats, and it benefits them. I mean, he appears to be in a very good spot. That he, not just in that one Marquette poll, but the polling in general has, although it's been tight, typically shown him ahead within the margin of error of the poll. So, he certainly appears to be in a pretty good spot. But, again, we're a few days out from the election, and a lot can still happen.
Okay, so let's look at that. A lot that could happen here. You recently wrote an article in the Journal talking about Mary Burke voting against a school budget. She voted against a 4% tax increase and also for a 1% increase in teacher pay. She was the only one on the Madison School Board actually to vote against it. So is she, in many minds, a little desperate right now, looking for whatever she can at the last minute? And what do you think that last minute might be that could work?
Well, look, I mean, she has taken some different votes on school budgets over the years. She went on to the Madison School Board in 2012. At that time, she voted for a preliminary tax increase, like a preliminary budget that had about a 5% tax increase. Then the final budget shaved that down quite a bit. In the two budgets following that, she's voted against tax increases. She says that she's been consistent in supporting the minimum of what was necessary or what was efficient to give a good education. Republicans have said that's a political change that was motivated by her running for the governor's race. I mean, obviously she, like the governor, is running very hard in the final days, and that vote did, get some attention.
Do you agree with those who say that Scott Walker is struggling? Because I read that in at least 3 different articles today, that he's struggling and limping towards Tuesday. Doesn't seem that way.
In the national media? Well, look, again, I mean, I think we just discussed the polling. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the national media stories, the national reporters came in about a week to 10 days ago. At that time, the most respected poll we have in the state, the Marquette poll, had the race at 47-47 among likely voters. Certainly that was not where Republicans hoped to be at that point. We have a new installment of that poll. It's more like what Republicans, I think, were hoping to see at this point. I guess I try and steer clear of adjectives and just stick with nouns and numbers. And I mean, the numbers right now are suggesting a tight race and suggesting some lead for Walker. But there's, the final weekend to go.
I only got about a minute left here. Would you agree with those who say that if Scott Walker wins, and even if he sneaks by on Tuesday, but if he wins convincingly, that he becomes the top dog for the Republican race for the presidency in 2016?
That question is probably above my pay grade. I mean, certainly the governor has worked very hard to check all the boxes that you need to check to put yourself, to be a potential contender for a party nomination for president. He's written the book. He's gone to Iowa. He's stumped around the country. He's built up a national donor network. He's done all those things you need to do. That being said, even if you're a Hillary Clinton, running for president is a very big task, and one at which only one person can succeed. It's a little bit like being a very good high school or college player, I think, and wanting to join the be at the top of the professional sports league.
That's really a good way to put it. The book, again, is More Than They Bargained For: Scott Walker, Unions in the Fight for Wisconsin. Jason Stein is the author. He joins us. Jason, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Break, and we return with a sign of Democratic desperation in California. And at 51 minutes after the hour, telling it like it is, the nurse who cares about herself.